Well, it is now day 25. I probably haven't vlogged in, I don't know, I'm going to say probably 4 or 5 days. And the main reason for that is because I went out of town for the, well, it was for an event, but it was my first boondocking. Like, I was not going to be at a campground. I was not going to be mooch docking in someone's driveway. Everything that I had to live on, you know, to day-to-day operations of your house or whatever, it was going to have to be done with what I took with me. I was in the parking lot of a hotel the entire time for the event, and I had probably the most miserable time ever. Now, I can't say that it was all bad. I got to see a few friends, but the worst part was that I guess it was some of the remnants of the Hurricane Gordon or whatever that just came through. I mean, there was a cold front, and then it met that warm air, and I mean, I managed to get like 3 or 4 clear hours when I first got to the hotel. After that, it rained nonstop from Thursday to the minute I left. It was still raining when I left, which was midday Sunday. So it was just awful. So I had the generator in the truck, and it was underneath the cover, but in order to refill it with gas, you've got to take the cover off. So then all the rain starts getting in on all of my gear inside the bed of the truck. And I refilled the tank 3 times, probably only needed 2. The temperature dropped pretty low, and I didn't seem to need the generator to run the air conditioner nearly as much as I was anticipating. So that was really cool. I ended up using propane to kind of keep the refrigerator going while I shut the generator off, because I was a little uncomfortable, you know, leaving my truck, leaving the bed of the truck open so that the air could circulate while I'm inside tied up doing stuff. No pun intended. Doing stuff and not knowing what was going on, you know, back at my vehicle. So, I don't know, it made it just really weird. So, I was constantly stressed about, okay, is my food going to go bad? You know, is the weather warm enough that it would warm up the refrigerator? You know, if you're gone for 4 or 5 hours, and then you've got to cool everything back down, you know, it kind of heats up, cools down, it heats up, cools down. So, that was the generator situation. So, I was able to use it, but I think it was on the second day, these Predator generators have a spark arrestor over top of the exhaust pipe. And the spark arrestor, it has like a filter or a screen that goes into the exhaust tube, and it was just absolutely full, covered, caked in carbon. And I could kind of tell that it was starting to smoke really bad, or something. I mean, I couldn't really tell what it was. So I run out there real quick because I hear it making weird sounds, and I get out there, and the whole backside bed of my truck was just completely black. I mean, it wasn't completely black, but it was pretty bad. Hang on. I don't even know if I'll be able to show you, but we'll try. It's not going to translate on camera. But you can see how, like, this is white, and then that is like a dingy brown. You can kind of see up there where I tried to wipe some of it off, you know. But it was so much worse. That's 2 or 3 times of wiping it off. So anyway, the Predator itself ran admirably this weekend, but I seriously question whether or not that spark arrestor, if you plan on keeping your generator in the bed of the truck, if it is even worth it, to be honest with you. I don't know if I showed you all this, but I ended up going with 3 2-gallon 8-ounce gas cans. They're just easier to pick up, easier to manage, easier to tilt over and refill your generator with. So I think that these are way better than the 5-gallon ones, honestly. It's just not nearly as much weight, but I think it's just much more manageable. Plus, if you fill the generator up before you leave, so there's like 2.5 gallons, it's got a locking tank, no big deal. So 2.5 gallons in there, and then another 6 gallons and some change in these 3. I mean, that's a good 4 or 5 solid days that you could use your generator. with little issue, honestly. As long as it wasn't like 90-degree heat the entire time, if you had any shade whatsoever, you would be able to, you know, run just about everything. Now, the other thing was that I tried to run the generator only when I was in the camper. That was it. If I knew I was going to be out and gone, I just wouldn't run it. But there were still a few things that I wanted to charge, like my e-cig batteries. And I quit smoking about 8 years ago, so I use an e-cig now. And I've been doing this for 8 years. So I need to recharge the other set of batteries while this set of batteries is being used. So I will say that my Kodiak generator, the Energy Kodiak, let me show you. For those of you who don't know, this is a solar generator. So what you do is, and you can actually charge this thing up 3 different ways. So while the generator was running, I had this 12-volt cable plugged into the side over here. And in this particular camper, I've got 3 12-volt outlets. So I keep USBs in them because I use USBs most of the time. But this front one here, and then I would set the Kodiak generator right here. While the generator was running, I would plug in the Kodiak and recharge it, because it'll store 1.1 kilowatts of energy in there. Of course, you can recharge it via AC power if you want. It's just a little bit slower. I find that the 12-volt direct current seems to charge it. It's got a much stronger punch, charges it much faster, but it will charge with regular AC 120 power. It'll charge it with 12-volt direct current power, and you can also charge it via solar panels, obviously, because it's a solar generator. I do have the solar panels here with me. I keep them in the shower stall when it's not in use, along with my Weber. But yeah, so I've got 3 of those solar panels. Those are the Predator 50 panels. They connect to each other on the sides. Super duper lightweight. They're made out of aluminum backed. It's an aluminum backed panel, about 4 pounds each, and but no sun. You know, it literally rained the entire time, so no sun. When the generator was running, I plugged in the Energy Kodiak. And I would run a fan at night off the Energy Kodiak, because I generally don't like to let the generator run all night and then run dry so that I can't do anything with it. But anyway, so it rained. I constantly was having to go outside and getting wet with the generator situation. I was constantly having to unplug some things from the main wall outlets and plug them into my Energy Kodiak so that I could be useful while the generator was off. I mean, it was just incessant rain, so every time I would turn the AC off because I wasn't running the generator, and then I would turn it back on, water comes out of these vents and drips all over the floor. So I just felt like I was constantly walking in and out, so not only was I dragging water in on my feet, but then I was like, okay, let's turn on a little bit of air and get some circulation, and let's try and dry this mofro out. Well, more water would pour in from there. So, I mean, I was constantly having to keep rugs down here on the floor. But obviously, when water spills on your rugs, they get wet. So now you've got more wet items that won't hardly dry because the humidity is at 100%. No sun, no radiation to help dry anything out. And I don't have my portable dryer yet, portable washer and dryer yet. That would have come in really handy on this particular trip. I mean, it was just one thing after another. I got to be completely honest. I think I still had antifreeze in the freshwater tank, so I basically drug 65 gallons of fresh water that wasn't even fresh. Like, I don't know how many. It was like a long drive. I can't remember how many miles it is, though. It's like 145 miles, 150 miles from here to there. I don't know. It was just one hell of a weekend, and I tell you what, I learned a lot of lessons. Boondocking in rainy weather sucks so bad in a travel trailer because your generator is not inside. But another lesson I learned was that the Energy Kodiak was an absolute lifesaver because of all of the features that it offers having it indoors. I can plug in lights, I can plug in my fans, I can charge my phone, my tablet, my laptop, all the things, and not have to depend on the gas generator outside. While I do think gas generators absolutely serve a purpose, they are much more of a hassle. I've never had to do an oil change on that solar generator. I've never had to refill it with gas. I've never had to change a spark plug in it. It was just a rough weekend. It really was. And I found a leak here in this front window, so that was cool. It was getting all over my woodwork here, all on that woodwork, so I had to dry all of that out, right? So not only do I got water coming in from my feet through the door because I'm walking back and forth, I got a leak in the front window, water spills out of this damn thing. I mean, it was just nonstop, guys. It was really brutal, and honestly, if I ever have to do that again, it'll probably be too soon. But I am not opposed to boondocking in absolutely perfect weather. I mean, if it's sunshiny, the wind is blowing, it's breezy, and I'm under a nice, beautiful shade tree, I could get past it, I think. But if it's raining, I don't care where it is. I'm packing my shit and I'm leaving the rain. Forget the rain. The rain is horrible. And when it's that wet, nothing will dry. Nothing. I even had to use my stove to help heat this place up a little bit because I don't have the catalytic heater in here yet. I mean, honestly, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. But if you all have suggestions, if you all have any tips, tricks, or anything that you all have picked up along the way as far as boondocking in less than ideal conditions, I mean, do you just settle into your bed in defeat and just wait for it to go away, or what do you do? What do you do? Because I'd really like to know. Yeah, I probably would. If I didn't have to work that event, I probably would have just stayed in the bed. Just, you know what? Forget it. I'm not dealing with any of this stuff. If I freeze, I freeze. F it. I mean, that's what you do when you go hiking. You know, if it starts to rain, man, you just throw your tarp up, throw your raincoat on. If you got to go out and use the restroom, you go to the tree, you come right back, get right back in your hammock. Forget about it. But yeah, tips, suggestions, advice, any and all of the above would be awesome. So that's all I've got, man. I have got to go to bed early tonight and get some genuine, real rest. So, at any rate, thanks so much for stopping here and hanging out for another exciting episode of Avion Awesome. And I'll see you guys again on the next one. Peace out.